Hi, I'm Phil Ashey from the American Anglican Council with another installment of One Big Idea, a series where we look at the church and the world through the eyes of the Bible. And we look specifically at the lessons for the upcoming week that we're going to be hearing on Sunday. This Sunday, the second Sunday upcoming in Epiphany, we look at lessons from 1 Samuel, Psalm 63, 1 Corinthians, and the first chapter of the Gospel of John. But if there's one big idea among many great ideas as we listen to these lessons, there's one I'd like to commend to you, and that is that God is calling, God is looking for leaders who will listen to him and speak whatever he asks them to say. God is calling leaders who listen. That's the one big idea. Now, how does that relate to you and me? Well, all of us are called to be leaders. It may be in our family as we parent our children and our grandchildren. It may be in the workplace as we have charge over others on a team. It may be in the church as a lay leader or a clergy person. It may be in a diocese as a bishop. It may be in a position of public trust if you're serving in government. Whatever it is, you, as a follower of Jesus, are called to be a leader who listens. Now, what's the posture for listening? Isn't it interesting that the story in the Old Testament of Samuel is a posture that we read about also in Psalm 63, in these wonderful words. You, God, are my God. Earnestly I seek you. I thirst for you. My whole being longs for you in a dry and parched land where there is no water. Boy, that's a great description, isn't it, of the kind of culture we live in, just as Samuel lived in his day, just as David lived when he wrote this psalm. In a dry and parched land where there is no water, we need to be able to hear the voice of God. And the only way we can hear is when we are seeking him eagerly, thirsting for him with our whole body and listening for his voice among all the other voices that we hear, the din all around us in our culture. In verse 6, it's a great picture of what Samuel himself was doing. On my bed, I remember you. I think of you through the watches of the night. Are we so focused on hearing God and listening to him that we are even restless during the night watches, listening for his voice, just as Samuel was? In this series of readings where we have Jesus also calling Nathanael and Philip, there's a promise that Jesus makes to Nathanael, that as he listens, as he attends to Jesus, he's even going to hear more and see more. And so it is with us as we listen to God. Going back to the story of Samuel himself, I think we can pick up some key themes about what listening leaders look like. And if I could just put two thoughts into your mind about leaders who listen. First, we learn to hear God's voice in a community of faith. We don't just do it alone, subjectively, on the basis of a personal revelation, however compelling it may be. Samuel went to Eli 3 times. That was a community of faith he was in, and that's why we help each other discern what God is saying. We help each other listen to the Lord. And so, whether it's in a small group or a Bible study or your church, whatever it may be, walk with other people as Samuel walked with Eli and learn to listen to God in that community of faith. Secondly, Samuel learned to speak God's words, all of them, truthfully, no matter what the cost. It was a tough word that he had to deliver to Eli, this word of judgment, but he did it. And so there's an obedience element to hearing God and continuing to hear more, as Jesus hints in John chapter 1. We have a great example of what this kind of listening and speaking looks like. We can wish and pray that our leaders in our culture would be the kind of godly, faithful women and men who listen to God and speak above the voices of the culture. That's what Paul did when he spoke specifically in the church to the scandal of lawsuits and the scandal of sexual immorality. We don't often like to hear this passage from 1 Corinthians 6 because it's so countercultural and so opposite to the values of our culture when it comes to things like asserting our own rights through the courts and specifically in the use of our bodies with regards to sex. But Paul spoke them. He was very clear. But he didn't do it in a way that was just condemning or strident. He said, look, followers of Jesus, you've been bought with a price, with Jesus' blood. Therefore, glorify God in your bodies. Isn't that a great hint to us who are in positions where we can speak into our own culture, even things for which the consequences of speaking might result in being canceled on the internet or whatever. But we do it as Paul did fearlessly, but calling people to a higher standard to glorify God in our bodies. It's a kind of a reminder of the theology of the body by Pope Paul and others. These are the kinds of things that God is looking for. Leaders in the church who will speak the truth because they've listened, but also godly men and women in families, in the workplace, in communities, in positions of trust, in service, in our government, who will listen first to the Lord and speak what he has to say, his truth, fearlessly, courageously, regardless of the consequences. This is another installment of One Big Idea. Please let us know if this is a help to you. God bless you.